Thank you so much, Mariana. That was calming and what was needed. Meditation has been one of the to-go support that I have started 2 years ago when COVID-19 started. Again, welcome to International Women's Day, coming live from Issaron in Minnesota, Minneapolis, specifically on Lake Street. I would like to share a little bit about who Issaron is and what we do and what we don't. And the other thing is, if you would like to go to isronevents.org, you can look at the agenda, who the speakers are, and so that you can follow us. Also, we have a live chat that's coming in. Please participate. Send wishes to women around the world, and also recognize that we are half of the world, and there's so much strength in us. So, who am I? I'm Fartun Weli. I'm the executive director of Issaron. I'm an organizer. I'm an auntie to all Somali kids, but also a beautiful kids that I'm auntie to for my brother's kids and everyone I relate to. Their kids are my kids. Issaron is 12 years old, and I want to acknowledge when we originally started International Women's Day of African Descent. It was 2 years, I think, before COVID-19 hit, and we started at University Humphrey University, and then Dean Bloomberg was the dean. And when we started the initiative, we say it's International Women's Day, but we want to celebrate Black gene, women with Black gene. We had so many discussions. I would not start a negative. People were like, why are you excluding the other half of the women of the world? And I said, we're not excluding. We're recognizing all women globally, but there are Black gene that needs to be celebrated by every one of us, because even though I'm still, my gene is Black gene is everywhere on the world. And so I want to send a heartfelt gratitude, thank you to Laura Bloomberg, wherever you are today, and say thank you for being a change maker and helping me and Issaron to establish that at the university. What does Issaron do? My answer usually say, well, what don't we do? We do everything that our families ask, and then people get this, no one can do everything for anyone. And we say, yes, you can. And so the word that kept coming back last 2 years when COVID-19 hit was how relevant Issaron is for our families. And then so that we say we are relentlessly relevant to our families. An example, when COVID-19 hit, we went down shutdown. Rightfully so, many institutions went shut down. Issaron never did. We told our families and we promised we will be there with or without money, but we will be there when there is a crisis, when there is celebration, and when there is nothing, that life goes on as it is. So we did not close our office. We have a small team that are incredibly passionate with multi-generation, from Gen Zs to millennials to my age. I don't know what age group I belong to yet. That we have done a lot of work and we stay relevant while everyone else closed their doors. Most of it, our tiny small food shelf that we used to support 100 families or 150 families, that space became 11 different locations that we were distributing food. And we did not change our model. Was like rice, flour, sugar, but it wasn't also giving a pound of rice and pound of this. It was really, our goal wasn't only numbers, it was like stabilization of our families. The second thing we did was system navigation. When, say, half of our families are on government support system and the government system has been closed and everything became virtual. With the donations and the grants we got from foundations, we increased almost 50% of our Somali-speaking staff to support our families, rent help, housing navigation, and everything else. And when crisis hit, many people, you can either go underground and get depressed, or some, it is an opportunity to reflect and say, where Issaron is going. And I've realized all of us who are in social service or trying to work with people in poverty, we're if you just think about our conveyor belt, and we're kind of assembly line. People are just passing by as they need some crisis need for food, for safety, for system navigation, for everything else. They're on that conveyor belt. And those of us who do the social services, those who do work on the poverty industry, which I felt Israel was part of that, but I'll talk about that in a minute, that the people are just passing by as they pass by, which just throw things, temporary things on their plate or their bags. And I realized, how in the God's name we're going to stop this conveyor belt, poverty conveyor belt, if our job is just being on that assembly line, that people as they pass by or they come by, we're just giving them something, but there's never ending of that poverty circle that we're in. And so what I've decided with work with our team, and also reaching out to volunteers from United Healthcare, I think, to say, hey, listen, we don't want to be in this crisis mode all the time. We want to be relevant for our families, but there has to be a way to look at our mobility. What do we need to do moving forward for Israel? So there are three things that we've established in order to stop this convertible poverty that our families are on. We have to establish programs that will remove individuals and families, especially female household-led, that is a large families, people of color in Minnesota, and Somali families are part of them, is to really establish. So we identify three things. Number one, the housing crisis has showed us how vulnerable these families are. Even if the government is paying their rent, everything got disturbed, and then we saw how family crisis had happened. And so we established we established a housing program that will help all Muslim families and every other family that need them to realize that they can purchase a home. So home ownership with the Muslim Home Ownership Association we established. The second thing that we saw that is very critical is legal navigation has been difficult for our families. Therefore, with money that we've saved, we established a legal clinic, a legal team, where we will have family law, we will have immigration law, and we'll have attorneys that will help our families navigate the system and stop them going into the legal system. The third area that we're focusing on is mental health, in that we established and hired social workers and our team are working on. The final note that I wanted to hear is everything that we're doing, it looks like a crisis. People call it a crisis management. People call it, I don't know, need-based approach. But what we realized that we're calling it triage. Triage, our families coming in first, and then we support them what they need right now. But then we have the conversation to say, where are you going tomorrow? How are we going to prevent the crisis that's happening today? So then they're not just coming in for the crisis that they need, the need they need right now. So I am so excited to venture into Israel, a new world, where we're going to be still supporting our families, but right now we do not want to be part of that assembly line. We do not want to be part of that, seeing our families being on that conveyor poverty belt on it. And so I call for you, all of us, to all of us in the social service agencies, foundations, government, to imagine what would we all do if we're zero poor Black and brown people in the world, if every woman around the world and Minnesota and America had her husband, her family, her own income, and there were no crisis. What are we going to do as a community that supports other people who are in need?